All right, my friends, welcome back to another episode of the Build Show podcast. That's right. We are getting together at a abnormal location. You probably hear a little bit of noise in the background. My buddy Brian Euler and I. Wait a minute. Are you Brian Euler or no?
I'm Brian Euler.
You're Brian Euler. If you're listening to this, you probably have no idea what I'm talking about. But if you're watching the video, you probably know that we are doing our best Brian Euler impersonation because we have
my very best.
Because we have some Milwaukee bolt system helmets on, and we are at World of Concrete at the Milwaukee podcast booth. Steve, it's pretty cool up here, I got to say.
Yeah, this is awesome.
This is before the show starts, so it's relatively quiet, so hopefully the podcast won't be too loud today. But we got full bolt gear on. They got some really cool new stuff in the bolt system this year that we saw, including a helmet-mounted fan that I totally need for my Texas job sites. Yeah. And Steve, what about you? What are you wearing today?
Well, I just immediately learned a lesson that it's very hard to have a conversation when I put
full hearing protection on.
Full hearing protection on. But I am Brian Euler.
You look a lot like Brian Euler. Same build. Brian's also 6'6".
There you go.
And 130 pounds like you.
In his dreams.
All right, let's time out for one quick sec. Let's get all our helmet gear off so we can get the proper podcast gear on. Give us 1 sec, Gil. All right, friends, before we jump into today's podcast with Steve Basic from World of Concrete, I want to say a big thanks to podcast sponsor Sugatsuni. If you don't know these guys, this is the OG secret to my hidden doors that I found on a search in like 2008. One of my very first YouTube videos I published in like 2009, probably within my first 10 anyways, was about a hidden door project I did for a client. And I found this random hinge from this Japanese company. That's Sugatsuni, and all these years later, what are we, like 17, 18 years later, I still use these guys, and I absolutely love their hardware. Tons of hardware for hidden doors. I did probably, I don't know, 4 hidden doors or 5 hidden doors at my house, all with Sugatsuni hardware, hinges and touch latches. But they've got a huge catalog of stuff. The thing that separates them, though, is not just great hardware, but amazing people. They have a full US team. They're based in Los Angeles. If you call this company, you're gonna get an actual person on the phone and you can talk them through with your project and say, hey, I'm thinking about doing X, Y, and Z. You know, can you direct me to some hardware that would work for that? Or I'm seeing this in your catalog. Here's my concern. I've got only an 1 3/4 door. Will that work for that? I need some help translating this. This is a fantastic company with the service to really get what you need. So whether you're a builder, a finish carpenter, a cabinet maker, anybody that does anything that's high-end or cool when it comes to carpentry and doors and projects, this is a really, really cool company. And by the way, their catalog has a lot of depth too. They've got coat hooks that I used at my house. They've got pull hardware. They've got all kinds of stuff. You can check them out at sugatsuni.com or just type Sugatsuni into the Google search and you'll find these guys. All right, Steve, from the Milwaukee podcast studio at World of Concrete, this is day 3. It's actually the start of the show, so it's nice and quiet up here. I thought I'd have a discussion with you on all things concrete, insulation, foundations. We've seen some interesting stuff here, and not concrete related, but related to foundations in particular. Let's start with insulation. You know, Steve, we've seen some interesting trends here at World of Concrete. Yeah. What are some things that you've seen trending on the insulation side?
I mean, insulation, R value is increasing while the size of the insulation is decreasing.
Yeah, and an example of that is we've seen at least one polyiso manufacturer. I'm trying to think who that was. So that was Carlisle, right?
Yes.
Was able to increase their R value by 20% in the same thickness. Yep. And they showed a display of like, hey, here's an R60 roof of like 8 inches thick versus here's an R60 roof that's 10 inches thick of quote unquote standard polyiso. What's the benefit of going thinner but the same R value in your mind?
Well, I mean, I get rid of my glasses here. The initial thing is the size of the fasteners, right? Every time I hear somebody say, hey, let's put 4 or 6 inches of insulation on the outside of the building, it's good that we're doing a lot of insulation, but we have the initial cost of the insulation and we have the cost of the fasteners, which is probably close to rivaling the cost of the insulation.
Yeah, that's a great point. I mean, you can easily get a bill for $5,000, $6,000, $8,000 in fasteners for, let's say, a rooftop insulation job.
And if you're doing it near the ocean, then maybe they're stainless steel fasteners or screws.
Yeah.
It's like we don't pay attention to the smaller details. Everybody wants to brag about how I put 4 inches of insulation on a building, but they don't want to talk about the costs that are associated with that.
Yeah, that you brought that up yesterday when we were at the booth. We actually shot a kind of best of build show talking about that. That's really interesting. Another side note that I saw, speaking of fasteners, I'd never seen this before at the Soudal booth, which is a Belgian spray foam company, adhesive company. They were showing using their spray foam adhesive, like basically the Advantech glue like we're used to seeing, which comes out like foam and then melts into a gel. They were showing 3 different types of insulation actually glued to a flat roof. Talk us through that assembly we saw.
Yeah, I mean, adhesive technology is like just increasingly getting better in its bite, if you will, right? I remember when tapes and glues and stuff first, were starting to get used in the building industry. People are like, well, how long is that tape? And you drive by a building and half the tape is falling off the building.
Stick and peel instead
or,
of peel and stick.
you put adhesive up and then like the insulation is down in the hole when you come back to work tomorrow. But these days, man, that stuff is, you'll tear apart the material before you'll pull some of these tapes or adhesives apart.
And here at World of Concrete, which is very commercial oriented, I'm not sure I'd recommend this show for the general contractor or custom builder. It's not really for us per se, but we have seen some interesting things. There's a lot of flat roof displays. You got a flat roof, you got 8 inches of polyiso. You might be able to glue that polyiso to the deck, glue the polyiso to the polyiso. They got, let's say, a fiberglass facer that will accept that glue really nicely. But here's something I'd never seen before, Steve. At the Soudal booth, they also showed gluing a mineral fiber, mineral wool, rock wool or power wool type insulation to a deck. Had you ever seen that install before?
I've never seen that. And that's, the beauty of coming into the show. If I could back up a second, when we go back home and I go to work and I start working with builders around the country, they all have these stupid myths about, how long is that tape going to last? How long is that glue going to last? It's like, get your butt to these shows and walk around, meet the people and talk to them. Because guess what? We're not using the same tape that we were using in 1988 or 92.
Totally.
It's a slightly better tape.
Yeah,
it's a slightly better adhesive.
A whole different tech.
And the whole purpose of coming to this show is coming out here and seeing that stuff, seeing all the new tools that Milwaukee has. I'm an architect who doesn't even care about this, but I care about the innovation that every one of these companies are bringing to the industry.
Yeah, for sure. And on that same front, thinking about insulation, we saw a really thin insulation yesterday, 1 inch thick, that had a ridiculous R value. Tell us what we saw.
Yeah, it was a vacuum sealed insulation that I believe was like R60 or something per inch, right? R66 per inch. And yeah, when you think about all of the other industries, the space industry, or you have places like refrigerators that you don't have 8 inches to put insulation on the back of a refrigerator. So how do we insulate that and make it more efficient and kind of increase its efficiency without increasing its size, exponentially? And that's kind of what we want to do to the building industry.
Yeah. Now, that vacuum panel is pretty interesting because it's such a high R value per inch. But, of course, because it's a vacuum panel, we can't penetrate it either, right? Like, we can't screw that onto the building or put a lath strip onto that. They were showing it in flat roof assemblies, which, back to the glue, you could glue that into your assembly and then glue down your, let's say, TPO roof. I wonder if we could use that on, let's say, basements, Steve. If we got a full poured concrete foundation, you could glue that to the wall as your first layer, maybe glue another layer of some other type of like insulation on it, and then frame a stud wall in front of that so that nothing ever touches it.
Exactly. And, it's funny because we did that post, and, of course, the haters come out. right?
I didn't even notice.
That's dumb. Well, what if you punctuated all of this? But it's like the same haters are bashing me because I'm building a 12-inch insulated wall, but then I show them a material that, hey, I could get the same R value in 1 inch, and they're like, oh, no, we don't want to hate that. It's like, you know what? How about we just stop hating and we come here and learn a little bit.
Totally. Now, another thing that I heard here at the show, which I thought was fascinating, was a hybrid insulation approach for fireproofing. This is a friend of mine that I ran into the show and said, hey, here's a strategy that I'm starting to see out there in California and Colorado and WUI zones. He said, if we're using mineral fiber insulation on the outside of the building, it can get expensive if we get thick, right? 6 inches of mineral fiber insulation is not an inexpensive assembly, let's say. But he was seeing people using, let's say, polyiso, a lightweight, more economical insulation, maybe EPS, and then doing, let's say, a 1-inch layer of mineral fiber on the top of that. What would be the benefit of that, Steve?
Yeah, well, you get that fire protection using that stone wall on the outside of that and the insulation, and you can use the other insulation to get that higher R value in a quicker dimension.
Yeah, I thought that was a pretty fascinating idea.
Yeah.
What's interesting that I have not seen here, and maybe this is just part of the show, I haven't seen a single spray foam manufacturer here. Have you?
Yeah, I haven't seen a spray foam manufacturer here either, but we haven't walked through the whole
That's true.
thing,
We haven't walked the entire show yet. But when I think of basements, and particular band joist areas, man, it's really hard to beat just a closed cell spray foam application in a band joist. Now, there's a million ways I can insulate the actual wall of a basement, inside or outside. But band joists, boy, they're really easy to insulate when it comes to spray foam.
The two people I highly respect, Dr. Joe being one of them, and another gentleman who I think he's one of the smartest guys out there. They both said that the right material should be chosen, right? It should be about the right material. And I know there's a lot of people, you can't use spray foam and this and that, but there are some areas, and believe it or not, like I've been in some very well-respected building scientist homes, and then you go in the basement and you see spray foam, and it's like, what? It's like, because it's the best material
for the job,
for that job.
Yeah.
And I get some people have an aversion to it, and if you're willing to pay the price to make that aversion happen, and we do have some details for it, but you kind of have to jump through a few hoops.
Yeah. If you look at my house as an example, Steve, that you spent a lot of time in under construction, I monopoly framed it. I did exterior insulation on the outside. I did actually use a little bit of spray from my band joist areas, but in hindsight, I'm not sure I needed to because I had 2 inches of Atlas polyiso on the outside of that band joist. Yep. So, I was already at R14, let's say, before my spray foam in the band joist. But one area, so most of my house actually has rockable bat insulation on the inside because I have 2 inches of Atlas polyiso on my walls. I have 4 inches of Atlas polyiso on my roof. It's monopoly frame, so there's no breaks. There's no, sections where we couldn't insulate. The entire outside shell is a Yeti cooler.
Right. But
inside my garage, I've got a garage that has living space above. Not ideal if I was designing the house from scratch, but the house was a demo, remodel, reuse the foundation situation. And so between my garage and my boys' room above, there was no other great solution besides spray foam.
Yeah.
And then the other thing that I did was I've got continuous joists between my garage and the house, the kitchen, basically on the other side. And I solid blocked those before the trades came, but that was a perfect spot to do spray foam as well.
Yeah, and I know, a lot of people want to talk about, what, the numbers of what you're doing and how is there a return on doing that? Well, I have a number of houses where we've done blower door before we've used any spray foam, and then we've put some spray foam in some of these strategic areas, and it significantly drops. And when I say significantly, I'm saying we're taking the air tightness of the house down 25%.
Yep.
30% in a number, because the spray foam, you get the insulation, you do get some air tightness. Yes, they're going to argue it shrinks away, but if you work with qualified people that have qualified equipment and qualified knowledge of how to use the equipment, you get a good job.
Yeah, that's right. For sure. For
You know,
sure.
I know people say, oh, well, we use spray foam. Look at this. Look at this. Yeah. And then you find out, well, yeah, we got 20 bids from spray foam contractors and we went with the cheapest. And it's like, and then they're crying about why did this stuff retreat from the stud frame? It's like, I'll tell you why, because you're an idiot.
Yeah. Because you did not do your research.
You didn't do your research.
100% based on price.
Yeah.
Which
it's baffling.
Which is always stupid.
You know, one of the things I've said before, and every year I believe it more, you get exactly what you pay for in the building industry.
100%.
If you pay a good, fair price, you get good, fair work. If you pay a high price, you get high quality work. If you pay the bottom line, you get cheap crap and you deserve it.
Yeah, 100%. You get what you pay for.
Exactly.
Totally true. Let's switch gears and talk World of Concrete and International Roof Expo. For someone who's never been here, doesn't know what this is.
This is my first time.
This is your first time. Okay,
oh, yeah.
So tell us your...
I'm a 60-year-old virgin here.
Tell us your impressions of World of Concrete and International Roof Expo. Did they meet your expectations? Was it totally different?
Do you want me to speak from my head or my feet?
I want you to speak from both because that is good. That is a good point. We're in Las Vegas at the convention center.
Yeah, everything's a mile walk.
Very spread
I'm going to get a coffee. I'll see you in an hour.
Yeah, that is totally true.
But no, World of Concrete. This is excellent. And you know, as an architect, people are like, "Oh, why do you go here?" It's to meet the people, to meet people in other industries. And you take somebody like Milwaukee. All right. Milwaukee is not far off from what I do every day. Mm-hmm. Now, they do tools. They design and build tools. I design and build houses. But we both have the shared discipline of innovation, right? They have to figure out a better way to make a table saw or a skill saw, or a better way to make a jackhammer. I'm probably not even using the right terms anymore, right? But forgive me for that. You know, the working with mats out there that are going to correct me. But, you know, but the idea is we share the same thing. We're in slightly different boats, but we're both rowing in the same direction.
That's right.
We want to make our personal part of the industry better so that the industry as a whole can be better.
And on that point, I think what's really interesting about the show in particular, you know, I'm not a concrete contractor, right? I hire them, and there was lots of booths. I was like, I have no idea what this company is. I don't even know what this equipment does, frankly. But what was really cool is I was shocked by how many CEOs, presidents, product manager who developed it, or, you know, we wandered into, I forget what booth it was yesterday, and the guy was like, oh, I'm the patent holder on this. You know, I know everything about this. Steve had this super nerdy question about.
He's the guy that developed fiberglass mats.
Yes.
Instead of paper face for gypsum board.
Yeah, and he's hanging out in the booth. Right, and you're like, hey, what does the blah, blah, blah? And the guy knew exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, he's rattling off numbers.
He's rattling off, and you're like, who is this guy? Oh, I'm the patent holder. And you grabbed his card. Yeah. That one contact is probably worth the price of admission right there.
Exactly.
And, you know, like the Tamlin CEO was here, and I'd never met Miguel before.
Yep.
What an incredible guy. He was the kindest, gentlest, coolest guy, super technical, but he's also the president of the company.
And he's 2 hours away from you.
He's 2 hours away from me. Now I got his card. I got a contact there. I mean, that's the kind of stuff that happens at a show like this that is incredible. Or even at the Milwaukee booth yesterday, I met the product manager on their battery-operated generators. They have some brand new units. It was so fun to talk to him about, oh, yeah, we heard this and this feedback, and we did this. And I said, well, you know, I've got this model back at my shop. And, oh, yeah, we addressed that with this, and this. These companies bring some really high-powered people to these events.
Yeah, no, it is. And it's nice to talk to those people and find out. And you know what? I think it is a really good sign of leadership when someone in charge of the company is down here asking questions, because they're trying to understand. I mean, you could go sit in your little corner office somewhere and you can look at spreadsheets that everybody brings you and see what the numbers are, but you don't get to feel the heartbeat of what's happening.
That's right. Totally.
You feel the heartbeat when you start walking around here and you start talking.
Yes.
And I know a lot of like the contractors that I work with are going to hate me because like I walk around here and then I see some of these like screeding and polishing machines turning concrete into glass.
Yep.
So I take a picture now and I'm going to go home and be like, why can't we make the slab look like this?
This looks incredible.
You know, why can't we do this? And they're like, where did you get that?
At World of Concrete.
Like they've never seen concrete that shiny.
Yeah, totally. All right, now I got to ask you, International Roof Expo. Also, your first time there, right?
Yes.
Did that meet your expectations? Was it different? Was it cool? Was it what about it was interesting to you as an architect?
The first part of it, I think, that I found that was really interesting, and it's probably the same for World of Concrete, is we've both been to the builder show. I've been to the builder show for the last 30 years. And you go to the builder show and you kind of just have your open mind and say, okay, I'm doomed for 3 days of, 20,000 step days for 3 days. I'm going to be tired and cranky by the time I start. But when you come to World of Concrete or the Roofing Expo, you kind of get in the mindset of everything roofing. Mm-hmm. And so, like, we're walking through there, not once did I think about how to, can this insulation be used in the foundation? It was all really focused on roofing.
Yep.
And I think coming there and just getting that specific. So if you're a general contractor and you're coming here, it's like you can learn an awful lot about the roof assembly itself by walking through that hall.
For sure. Speaking of big dogs and CEO types, we had breakfast yesterday, Steve and I and our buddy Mark Willey, with the head guy for a company called Informa, which you probably don't know. Informa is the parent company that puts on World of Concrete, that puts on the International Roof Expo, and also is the parent company for Build Show Live. We had a fabulous breakfast with him, riffing on some ideas for a new concept for Build Show Live event. We can't tell you too much because it's not fully baked, but we have a big strategy session coming up in 2 weeks with him and some of his other people that I'm hoping we could get out in 27. Yeah. But tease us a little bit with some of the concepts we were talking about at that breakfast, Steve.
Well,
what are the things?
How about
if I
just throw out some words to you like access?
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
I mean, Build Show is this collective group of, 14 contributors?
We have 15 experts and we have 5 pros now.
And 5 pros that are somewhat, you could argue, are the heartbeat of the industry.
Yep.
And getting access to them at Build Show Live is one thing, but what if we could increase that level of access in some way?
Yep. And I would add community on there too, Steve. I think that when you're listening to this podcast, when you're watching Steve's videos, you want to be a part of the team. You're like-minded. You're not watching this podcast if you're a production builder or you're building not very good houses. You don't care about the details, right? You're listening to this because you're like-minded to Steve.
I think they're listening to me because I'm highly entertaining.
Well, you are extremely entertaining and handsome if you're watching this podcast too.
Oh.
He's got his Milwaukee shades on. Those actually look really good in you, Steve. I never see you wearing glasses.
I'll be back.
You do look a little Schwarzenegger-like. I think there's a need and a desire for more and more community. And so this event that we're talking about would be a smaller group setting, not a large group setting. It would probably be in addition to Build Show Live. So stay tuned for that. And if you've got any feedback on that, send Steve and I a DM on Instagram. I don't read all my DMs every day, but I do get to them eventually. Sometimes I'm a month or more behind, but we want that community. We want that feeling of I'm part of something that's bigger than myself, that I'm building houses that are going to be generational houses, that my kids are going to remodel this someday and thank us as grandpa or grandma for being a part of a really good build. Yeah. It's a fun community we've developed. And speaking of those 20 contributors, it was fun to also catch up with like the Kaufman crew. That's a father-son duo, John Kaufman and John's wife, which I'm blanking on her name all of a sudden, started Kaufman Construction. Jared's in his low 20s. He kind of grew up on Instagram, a great framer, and started a YouTube channel on framing and an Instagram a long time ago. And we said, hey, Jared, why don't you also publish some of those videos to the Build Show? And we actually have two really fun series coming up with the Kaufman crew. Jared's doing what he calls what's he calling it? Like a crack house remodel. Have you heard about this?
No.
He bought like a former crack house that was in a horrible shape, and he's like remodeling down in the studs and finding some terrible things behind the walls.
That's all right.
And then on the far side of that, John, his dad, is building a brand new house and doing a ton of the work himself. He's using the Fab Form Industries fast footer He's going to do the ICF walls himself, where he lays the Lego blocks and pours it himself. He's going to frame it himself.
Yeah.
These guys are real builders. You know, I call myself a builder, but I take credit for a lot of other people's work. And these guys are tool belts on, actually doing it. So we've got now 5 of those build pros shooting video, or pardon me, build pros shooting videos potentially on their YouTube channel, but then also publishing to the build show. So we're widening the network of like-minded people that really care about the industry. The other thing that we're going to see in, I think, 26 or maybe 27, as we've got the resources to expand the build show even more, I want to find, Steve, a really good California builder that we could add to the build show crew who's building really great California houses. I want to find a mountain builder. I'd really love to see a Florida coastal builder so we can continue to expand out all the regions so that we've got at least, 1, 2, 3 builders in every single climate zone. Because the way you build a house in climate zone 2, the way you build a house in, are you 5 or 6? I don't even know.
We're in 5.
In climate zone 5, very different ultimately, right? And a very different challenge that you're under. So we're going to be looking for that in the coming year.
No, that's awesome. And I agree. I mean, the community, I've spent my whole 30 years just talking with people, right? And when you lecture, people think, okay, you go to these symposiums and I give lectures and stuff. It's not really about that. It's after I'm done talking, I can walk around with all these people and they ask questions and, I give some answers, and a lot of times I'm asking questions back, but it helps me understand because I can't, in my career, build every type of house, every type of wall assembly, and come across every type of situation. So in having these conversations, I can have a conversation with somebody about a detail or a roof assembly, and then I either walk away going, wow, that was stupid. I don't know why they're doing that. I would never do that, and kind of cement my conviction on that. Or they can give me something that I question and think about for a while, or they give me something that, wow,
never thought of
that. Conversation really went to a good place.
It's awesome.
But if you sit at home and you're just hating on the industry and you go and do your job and you're slap happy, put it together, then you're going to be hating it.
Yeah, for sure. Steve, thanks for joining me in Vegas this week. Really fun to hang out with you.
Always
and Mark
a pleasure.
For a couple days.
I try to do my best Michael Jackson too.
You can't see it if you're listening, but he's got one Milwaukee glove on. Only one.
Only one.
It is the.
I saved the other one for you.
Cut level 5 though. This is legit gloves right here, Steve.
These are very comfortable, man.
Yeah, very kind to for our Milwaukee friends to allow us to use this podcast booth and send us the footage and send us the audio. Hopefully the audio is pretty good. It sounds good in my ears, even though we've got planes going by. There's a tram right behind us.
Well,
they're about ready to start jackhammering on some concrete, and literally right behind us is a giant battery-operated concrete saw, and probably the biggest coring bit I've ever. What is that, like a 12-inch coring bit?
That is every bit. I bet you that's probably 16-inch, the one that's on there.
Goodness gracious, and it's that MX Fuel battery-operated, too. That is a beast.
That is crazy.
And by the way, I actually own a lot of the MX Fuel, formerly gas-operated equipment, now operating on a battery. It's not for every job, but I tell you, if you are ever working in a finished house, a finished basement, that's when that battery-operated tool makes a giant difference because you're not spewing out that carbon dioxide, all those gas-burning fumes into a small enclosed basement space. So big thanks to Milwaukee for having us out. If you guys don't know Steve Basic, I can't imagine you don't know him already, but go follow him on Steven Basic Architect on the gram. He's got his dual logo jacket on for us today. You can also see the last 6 years of his videos on thebuildshow.com.
500. Did you know I'm over 500 videos?
500 videos.
Yeah, I counted them up not too long ago.
I would like to get the stat of how many hours total that is if someone were to sit down and watch all
They average probably
those.
about 20 minutes of video.
So what's the quick math on that?
500 times 20 is 10,000.
10,000
hours.
10,000 hours?
Yeah,
Minutes.
or 20,000 minutes. Sorry, 10,000 minutes.
Holy cow.
So then you
that's a
divide
lot.
that by 60. I don't know. I'm
That's a
not
lot.
doing that much math this early in the morning.
I think you should just need to hit play.
I'm
on the
really trying to
playlist.
concentrate on. I got to get Hilti. I want to get on one of these, like the biggest jackhammer they have,
Oh, you would still
And,
make it look small. You are not a small man.
and make it happen. But
Guys, thanks for joining us here from World of Concrete. We sure appreciate your support. With that being said, guys, follow us on Facebook or Instagram. Otherwise, we'll see you next time on the Build Show podcast.
from the Milwaukee booth.